You're listening to the Gambling Gauchos, part of the Stake in the Plains Content Network, and the Dave Campbell's Republic of Football podcast feed. Just a couple of casino caballeros talking Texas Tech, betting on the Big 12 and beyond. Now, here's Kyle Jacobson and Rob Bro, live from the Cardinal Sports Center studio.
Welcome into the Gambling Gauchos. I'm Rob Bro. He's Kyle Jacobson here in the Cardinal Sports Center studio. Live today previewing Wyoming and the Wyoming Cowboys. Cody Tucker from 7220sports.com. Cody, how you doing this afternoon?
Doing awesome, fellas. Appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. Can't wait to get to know more about Wyoming and the team, but let's start with you. Who are you and how do you cover? How'd you get covering Wyoming sports?
So it's funny, fellas. I'm from Wyoming, born and raised. Live here in Cheyenne, about 45 miles east of Laramie, and I did the journalism thing. Went all over the country. Was covering Michigan State for a couple of years. Covered the Pittsburgh Penguins, and guys, I found myself sitting in the press box watching Wyoming games on my phone, wishing I was in Laramie. My heart's in Wyoming, and it was time to come home, and I wanted to try something new. And there weren't any websites dedicated fully to the Wyoming Cowboys, so I thought, people thought I was crazy because Wyoming is the least populated state in the country, but everybody in this square cares about the Wyoming Cowboys one way or the other, whether it's what's the score or die hard. So we have one four-year university, and I knew it would work as far as the fan base and advertising and all that stuff goes. So this is my fifth football season covering the Pokes, and really a dream job for me, fellas. Never missed a game in Laramie in almost 3 decades until I actually moved down to Baytown, Texas to cover sports down there. So home and loving it.
Well, we know a couple of our friends that maybe live in Denver or Colorado Springs. They might have been up in Wyoming before, but I would say 99% of Texas Tech fans that are going to the game on Saturday, it'll be their first time in Laramie, first time at a University of Wyoming football game. Give the fans traveling in a sense of maybe what there is to do in Laramie, some good spots to eat or drink, and what the stadium experience is like up there.
Yeah, guys, it's a straight-up college town. That's all there is to it, man. Laramie wouldn't even be on the map if it wasn't for the University of Wyoming. So I've always kind of actually, I've been through Lubbock. I love West Texas, love Texas in general, but I always considered Texas Tech to maybe be the Laramie of the Big 12, kind of out on its own. People kind of dump on it who've never been there, but they don't realize how great it is, plus overlooked, underdogs, all that good stuff. So, Laramie is just a great place, and it's kind of Wyoming's hometown in a lot of ways. So the town's going to be hopping. I have a buddy who's a beer distributor, and he just distributed 10,000 cases of Coors over there yesterday. So it's going to be flowing. There's so many great places there. Of course, the Buckhorn Bar, which is super famous, but became even more famous for having the big party outside when Josh Allen was drafted by the Buffalo Bills in 2017 or 2018, and the place went completely nuts, and it was on ESPN. That's always a go-to. There's a ton of really cool restaurants. The coolest part about Laramie, it's a lot of hometown restaurants, not a lot of the chain stuff. So you're liable to find some fun anywhere. The place is going to be absolutely hopping, and really excited for stuff like this. I know it can fool you when you look at the capacity of War Memorial Stadium is only 29,000, but it's 29,000 going completely nuts right on top of you, not to mention the elevation and all the other good stuff that comes along with it. So Laramie's just a perfect example of a college town. It's a great place.
You mentioned one bar. Are there a couple of bars you could give us, restaurants that we could frequent? Because we're coming down as well.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
3rd Street Bar is great, and the best part, guys, it's all downtown and it's all walking. There's nothing's far apart down there. The library's another great place downtown. Had a huge 7220 party there actually during COVID. Probably shouldn't tell people that, but a great place, great people. Everywhere's awesome. I mean, I wish I could give you more specifics, but really, you're going to fall into fun no matter where you go.
Like I said, this will probably be the first University of Wyoming game that most Texas Tech fans take in. And, I'm sure that the hardcore college football fans have seen some late night Mountain West games and might have caught a Wyoming game here or there. But You've got a long tenured head coach who has done a really solid job. Kind of a program that's always there competing at the top of the Mountain West, at least trying to win their division, trying to win the conference. Just give us a sense about Craig Bohl and him as a head coach and sort of the state of the program under Bohl's leadership.
Yeah, guys, his picture is definitely in the dictionary next to old school, no doubt about it, and something that, looking into tech so much this week, Joey McGuire goes for it 52 times on fourth down. Craig Bohl went for it 7 times on fourth down. So that kind of just in a nutshell shows you, man, he loves to run the football. He's a defensive coach. He coached all those great defenses at Nebraska under Tom Osborne. He's very familiar with tech, played them a lot when Wyoming's own Mike Leach was the head coach there in Lubbock. He is ground and pound, and it can be kind of maddening. I got to be honest with you. It can be. Since Josh Allen's been gone, the passing game just hasn't kept up. It hasn't kept up with its part of the bargain, and that's really at times made the Cowboys one-dimensional. But you guys may have heard the weather up here can get pretty tough. So when it does, the Cowboys can run it right down your throat, and they take a lot of pride in that. So that's Craig Bohl in a nutshell. It's year 10 for him. He's the longest tenured head coach in Wyoming history. Beloved by some, drives others insane with this passing stuff. I think people are just tired of the expectations and are ready to win a Mountain West championship. I mean, year 10, it's time. And this coach came in here from North Dakota State after winning 3 straight FCS national championships. So he came in with guns blazing, so to say, and it just, aside from Josh Allen in 2016 leading this team to the Mountain West championship game, it just hasn't happened. And they were close last year with the 3rd youngest team in the country, 3rd youngest roster. And now because of the portal and all that good stuff, they're one of the oldest teams, like you guys, one of the older teams in America. So a lot of maturity, and he's really excited about this team.
Who are we looking at across the skill positions? Running back out, or the starting running back maybe out, but the rest of it, what are we looking at quarterback-wise and wide receiver and running back?
Yeah, so Andrew Peasley, this will be his 2nd year starting. He's a transfer from Utah State. He's one that's really the big question mark. He had some moments last year that weren't so hot. Last year in the opener at Illinois, 5 of 20 for 30 yards and a pick. Not ideal. Really bad start. However, the next week he came out against Tulsa and beat them in double overtime and was named the Mountain West Offensive Player of the Year. So that's kind of what you got with him. He was a little injury prone toward the end of the year. I shouldn't say injury prone, but suffered some injuries toward the end of the year that really kind of set him back. But I think he's really ready to take the next step this year, guys. He ditched the knee brace, which was driving him crazy last year. Running is a big part of his game, at least scrambling, picking up some random first downs with his feet, stuff like that. That really deterred him last year from doing that. And also, people joke about it here because the passing game has not been great, but joke all you want. This is still a pro-style offense, and it's still really difficult to learn. He came from Utah State in a spread where it's really one word and snap. Everybody knows what they're doing on their one-word play. Now it's, a nightmare call in the huddle, and, it's really getting under center. He told me in Vegas at Mountain West Media Days this year, people didn't even realize that was the first time he'd ever even played with a tight end in his career was last year at Laramie. So expecting him to make a jump for sure. You're right. In the running back room, DeWine McNeely unfortunately tore his ACL this fall camp. He was really primed to have a breakout year too, so that one's tough. But Harrison Whaley, a transfer from Northern Illinois, he also had some minor knee surgery this offseason, which is going to prevent him from playing in this game. Jamari Farrell is the starting running back. He's running back 1, and he is a JUCO product. We don't get to watch practice here. I don't know if you guys do down there. Craig Bohl does not allow that, so we're just going to have to take his word for it. The decision maker said Jamari Farrell's good enough to be running back number 1, and he came from Saddleback Community College in California, and really great kid, really great story. And then DQ James, a kid down from your area, Lancaster, Texas, down in the DFW Metroplex. He's only about 5'7", but man, he's got some Barry Sanders-esque movements to him, if I can say that. I know that's lofty stuff, but I mean he's pretty squirrely. So those are your running backs, really. Sam Scott, another guy, has been moved to a running back. He was a 6'2", 230 linebacker last year, and before the bowl game, they ran out of running backs and had to, put him in. It stuck. Coach Bohl said he's probably the best athlete on this team. So out at the wide receiver spot, Alex Brown, a kid out of Spring, Texas, north of Houston. He looks a lot like your guy, Bradley, body-wise. Big dude. That's also kind of, he only has 9 catches in 3 years. So that also, when you have a body like that, it's kind of like, what are you doing, man? When are you going to break out here? He's also the fastest guy on the team in pads, running consistently 20 miles per hour. So Alex Brown's expecting big things. They also have a couple of super seniors, and Wyatt Wheeland, who's a real good possession slot guy, really has come on the last couple of years, as well as Gunnar Gentry, who's coming back from back-to-back season-ending knee injuries. They also picked up a couple guys out of the portal. Ayer Asante is a kid from Holy Cross up in Massachusetts. He racked up about 1,700 yards last year through the air, and they also picked up Devin Body Jr., a speedster out of Vanderbilt. They're really excited about him as well. So they got some guys. This is definitely the deepest they've been at wide receiver. But basically, if you talk to any Wyoming fans, it's prove it. Haven't seen the passing game be consistent over the years. I mean, literally since Josh Allen left. So that's all people are screaming for, is some consistency. This team is never, as Coach Bohl likes to say, I'm not going to be Mike Leach. I'm not going to throw the ball 40 times a game. It's never going to happen. But if you throw 20, complete 16, not 11 of 20, 12 of 20, 9 of 20. You just can't have that kind of stuff. So so that's those are kind of your skill guys. A lot of wait and see, a lot of prove it on the outside, but they're really excited about these guys, especially these transfers that came in. They really think they can make this offense dynamic.
I'm curious for your thoughts on this, but from what I can sort of piece together, from what I've read about Wyoming, the defensive line might be the best position group on the team, and the offensive line on the other side of the ball, very young and inexperienced. And it's probably similar at Texas Tech. The offensive line isn't young and inexperienced, but they have a lot to prove. That was probably our weakest position group last year. Meanwhile, the defensive line has what we think are several all-conference caliber type players. So it looks like both teams, strong D-line, potentially weak offensive line. Give us a sense of where you think Wyoming stands in the trenches on both sides of the ball in this matchup.
Yeah, so offensively, they are going to have a couple of new starters. Wes King is a guy who has never played in a college football game. He will line up over at left guard. Caden Barnett will take over. He's a kid from Justin, Texas, over by you guys also in DFW. You, Kyle, anyway, over there. He started last year against Air Force, didn't skip a beat. Frank Crum is really the anchor of that line. He's a 6-year guy. He's from Laramie. He's 6'8", 315 pounds. They just moved him from right tackle to left tackle this year. NFL guys obviously knocking on his door with his size and strength and wingspan and all that good stuff. I imagine him and Miles are going to have a few. Miles Cole, they're gonna meet up a few times, I think, on Saturday night. So really looking forward to that matchup. But Nafoa Fiatulifono, I should say, is the center. He was the starting center last year. He's probably dropped 15, 20 pounds. He looks great. So they definitely have some dudes. Jack Walsh, another guy, the right guard. He played a lot last year too. So they're not totally inexperienced. Wes King is he is a guy who definitely hasn't played at left guard, but other than that, they're very confident. This program is all about running the rock. So, Wes King, like I said, I have to preface this every time. We are not allowed to watch practice, so we have to go with what we hear. But Wes King, he must have done some nice things, because they will not ever put a liability on this offensive line. There's no way. They only gave up 19 sacks last year anyway. Did lose Emmanuel Pregame after spring football. He was a guard, a really big, solid dude out of Denver. They lost him to USC, unfortunately, in the offseason. That was probably the biggest blow to this line. So on the other side of the ball, though, you're right. That's absolutely the strength. Cole Goodbow and Jordan Bernoulli, the two defensive tackles, they are really salty, really good. I don't even need to throw the word arguably in front of it. They're the best defensive tackle tandem in the Mountain West, and it's not particularly close. Even their backups got a lot of playing time last year. Ben Florentine's a kid who actually snapped his finger in half and then played like 3 more snaps. And coach said he's tougher than mustard gas, so that's now his new nickname. So I don't think I want to go against a guy named Mustard Gas. I know that. But also the defensive end spot, Sebastian Harsh, he didn't play last year. He broke his kneecap in half horizontally last year before the opener at Illinois. Pretty ugly, rare injury, but he also had to get some wire taken out of it, so he didn't participate a lot in the fall, but he's going to be ready to go, and they say he's the best pass rusher on this team, so they're really excited about him. Devon Harris quietly racked up 8.5 sacks last year. Braden Siders is a guy who plays really angry out of the Denver area. He's another defensive end that racked up 7 sacks, I want to say. So they're really stout there. And then when you move it back, Easton Gibbs is, the preseason Mountain West Player of the Year there at middle linebacker. I believe he had 121 tackles last year. If that guy can start showing up as far as in the turnover column, which he's mad at himself, you register 121 tackles, and I believe he only forced 2 fumbles last year. That's just not enough, and he knows that. So another guy on the weak side linebacker spot, Shea Suianoa, he's a kid out of Clear Lake High School down in the Houston area. He led the team in missed tackles at 22, but he was Johnny on the spot every time. And if he fixed that part, they're going to be in really good shape. And also they play in the nickel all the time for the most part. Rook Brown, he actually passed me last year after the New Mexico game in Albuquerque, and I thought he was just support staff, like maybe a towel boy. Not a big dude. He's from Salado, Texas, and he really came on the scene. He's not afraid to just get his nose in there, and so he really solidified himself as the new nickel. So they are definitely strong up front, and they're strong in that linebacker core. They definitely need to get pressure on Shuck, no doubt about it, and that is going to be the key Saturday night for this team.
Both coordinators for Texas Tech and the head coach, Joey McGuire, all three said the defensive line just plays really hard.
Yes.
So is that a defensive philosophy, or is that going all the way back for Wyoming?
Oh, yeah. That's another thing in Craig Bohl's program. If you're not cutting the mustard, there's no way you're playing on this defensive line. He sent numerous guys to the NFL. Until cut-down day, the Cowboys actually had 14 former players in the NFL. So they've continually produced talent, especially at the linebacker spot and the defensive line and the offensive line spots. That has been the bread and butter, man. Run the ball and stop the run.
How about Texas Tech has a very, I would say, aggressive defense. They want to force turnovers. They want to cause quarterback pressure. I think I have a good grasp on Wyoming's offensive philosophy, what they're trying to do with the scheme. It's opposite of Texas Tech. It's run the ball, go very slow, eat up some clock, all that good stuff. What is Wyoming trying to do on defense? Is it blitz? Is it rush the passer? Is it bend, don't break? What's kind of the overarching philosophy behind the defensive scheme?
That's a good question. I think now that we're going to see Sebastian Harsh out there, it might be a different story. I think they really, really are hoping and banking that this front four can cause enough havoc where they don't really need to blitz all that much. And I assume it's probably not going to be the easiest thing to blitz when you guys have 75 wide receivers on the field at all time as well. I mean, I know they probably don't want to be doing that is what I'm thinking. But yeah, they really want that front four to pressure. And really it all starts with, the cliche, stopping the run. And once you stop the run and you can try and make them one-dimensional, things happen. But Colby Taylor has been the unquestioned MVP of this offseason for this team. They have 10 starters back on the defensive side of the ball. Colby is number 11. He's a 6'4", 230-pound corner out of the Houston area. It heard nothing but rave reviews. This guy appeared in 8 games last year, mainly on special teams. He started the last 2, and I believe he played 4 plays in the Arizona Bowl before a helmet-to-helmet sent him to the shower early. But he's really, really good, and he's a guy that I would totally expect to be on Bradley almost this entire game. They said they don't play that way where he's going to shadow Bradley, but they are both about the same. They have the same frame, the whole nine. So really excited about that matchup when it does happen. But they also feel like they might have a lockdown corner in Colby Taylor. And if you have a lockdown corner, that's when they're going to feel way more comfortable about sending blitzers. And Shea Suianoa, the outside linebacker, he is one of the best at that game. However, like I mentioned, the tackling issues, he's got to bring him down. And last year against Boise State in the home regular season finale, they got to Taylor Green 10 times and they didn't bring him down once. And the Cowboys lose that game by 3. It's just that's where the game inches happens, and they know if they get to Shuck, they need to put him on his wallet, whether it's a sack or not.
It seems like, I don't have the numbers on this, but it seems like Wyoming is one of those teams that always punches up in the non-conference. It always, you see a Wyoming score and it's like, what in the hell happened in that game?
Yeah.
Wyoming beating Illinois or whoever else.
Yeah.
Do you think they have an opportunity here against Texas Tech?
Yeah, of course. Honestly, guys, I told somebody on a radio show earlier today I wouldn't fall out of my chair if they win this game, and it really reminds me of the 2019 meeting with Missouri. They came into Laramie for the opener. Kelly Bryant from Clemson came over to Missouri. It was all about Kelly Bryant. It was all about, Missouri's going to roll. This might be the year they can actually contend in the SEC. They showed up and went up 14-0, just like that. And you thought, oh, God, this is going to get ugly. And I believe he threw for 450 yards that night. Cowboys sacked him, strip sack, touchdown. Next thing you know, it's a 27-0 run. Cowboys end up winning that game. This game really has a lot of those same feelings. Sellout, 5:30 start. Talking to some of the players that were here in 2019, they really feel like all the talk's been about Texas Tech, and they don't care. They're fine. This team was picked to finish 6th in the Mountain West this year, which I don't have any problem telling you is completely insane, and nobody did their homework at all. This is going to be the best defense in the Mountain West when the dust settles. They're going to run the ball. They're going to have a 1,000-yard rusher. It's just they're not going to finish 6th. It's absolutely insane. Somebody also picked UNLV to win the conference, by the way, so I don't think we're dealing with the sharpest guys, let alone guys not doing their homework. But this team is solid, man. They have depth across the board, and that's something that can really separate them this year, unlike other years. Wyoming plays in Austin in week 3. And back in the day when Wyoming's teams weren't as good before Craig Bohl got here, you might have looked at this as, wow, Cowboys are really just trying to get a couple paychecks here, and hopefully they don't get themselves killed. Nobody feels that way anymore, and they're going to rotate and they're going to roll guys all day long. And they're basically, aside from safety, they're basically stout and have depth at every position. And that is just a luxury that smaller schools don't often have, especially in the era of the transfer portal.
I remember that 2019 game. What I like to do every college football Saturday if I have time is look at some analytics models and compare it to the money line in Vegas to see which underdogs are undervalued.
Yeah.
And I think Wyoming, you might remember they were like plus 600, 800 on the money line, but they had like a 1 in 4 chance to win according to some of the analytics with amazing value. And so same way, my jaw didn't exactly hit the floor when they won that one. I thought they were undervalued, and now that it's Texas Tech in Missouri's shoes, so to speak, really hope it doesn't happen again. But you've certainly made a good case, and we do like to have a bit of a sports betting angle on the podcast. So if you want to, you feel like making a couple of picks with us before you go?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. First one, super simple prop bet. Sure to not ruffle any feathers from any Wyoming or Texas Tech listeners, but who's the better quarterback, Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen?
Oh, come on. Somebody actually said, hey, I wish those two would come here and flip the coin. And I said, you don't want that kind of heat because Jackson's coming with him. And we don't want that kind of stuff going on here in Laramie, Wyoming, folks.
Yeah, I don't know if that would go very well.
Imagine him dancing on the Buck and Horse logo. Somebody might kill him.
Yeah.
No, Patrick Mahomes obviously has the Super Bowls. He's got all that stuff going for him. He's a hell of a good quarterback. I think Josh just, man, you feel like Josh is going to get one. Maybe you guys don't, but he's such a special talent, and he's waved the banner for this university so huge, just like Patrick's done with Texas Tech, and it's really cool to see these two doing their thing. From, like I said earlier, guys, I've always really, and I don't know how you feel, but I've always really considered Lubbock and Texas Tech to be like the Wyoming of the Big 12. I really do. Kind of like I always thought of Washington State and Pullman as the Wyoming of the Pac-12, just always overlooked, just the little guys out in the sticks, I've always felt that. So I've always felt like there's kind of a kindred spirit there with Texas Tech a little bit.
Yeah, I thought it was a really cool moment. I guess it was 2 years ago in the playoffs, that game where they both scored like 2 touchdowns in the final minute and a half or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And there was like a hot mic when they went and shook hands, and Mahomes said to Allen something like, "You and I are going to be doing this for a long time."
Yeah.
And I hope they do both stay in the AFC because it's such a great matchup, and they will probably be on a collision course in the playoffs for the next decade if they stay put. So,
yeah, if
and
Joe Burrow would go away, this could be the next Tom Brady, Peyton Manning. Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, and you're right. They both, were coming out of college, similar circumstances, like, hey, smaller school, at least not like a blue blood program, rocket arm, but, they didn't win very much in college, all that noise. And, of course, the skill set transferred with some good coaching. And so, anyway, it's cool to see them both excelling.
Yeah. I didn't answer your question, by the way, but I think you know where I'm heading.
I noticed, yeah. I was going to let you successfully dodge that. So the total, as a Texas Tech fan, it looks really low to me. We're usually not in a game where the total is 50.5, but I'm sure that's par for the course for Wyoming. What's your sense on if we're going to go over or under on Saturday?
Well, I'm going to stick with the Missouri theme. I picked the Cowboys to win this one 37-31, just like they beat Missouri, and I have no idea if that's going to happen. I said I would throw out some bets. I didn't say I was good at it, so that's kind of my thought on it. Yeah, 50, because you think about it, I believe I read Tech averages about 80 plays per game. That's not going to happen, and Wyoming's going to slow it down and muddy it up a little bit. This game, oddly enough, really reminds me of Air Force, one of Wyoming's oldest front-range rivals. They play every year, and you really want to keep the ball away from them. And if they get it anywhere near 4th and 3, 4th and 4, they're going to go for it, and they're going to bury you as far as that goes. They're just going to stay on the field, and they're going to bury you. I know Tech is different because they'll score on you in 20 seconds, but just really you want to keep your offense on the field and keep their offense on the sideline, and that's the same thing you really want to do against the Falcons. So I think 50 is maybe a little low. I think Tech's going to get theirs, but I think the Cowboys are going to really hope for some double-digit play drives and really some killers and keep the defense on the field, sucking some air, and I think that's got to be the goal. I mean, that's what this team does. They'll bust a few explosive plays, but a lot of those are on the ground. And Missouri got it. Missouri gave up 2 75-yard touchdown runs. And, that's where this offensive line comes into play, man. They'll push you right off the ball, open a hole, and off they go.
I guess that answers the question about the spread. You're taking the Cowboys plus 14?
I mean, yeah, I would take that bet. I really would. I don't think this is going to be a blowout. I don't know how you guys feel about it. I really don't. And they're going to feel each other out. And I know you guys have a veteran squad. I believe 18 returning starters. I read, the Cowboys have 17 returning starters. I think the strengths are different, but I think it'll almost complement itself. And it's going to be I think it's going to be a blast. I really do. And Craig Bohl's like Joey McGuire. He's going to throw the ball no matter what, whether it's working or not. And Craig's going to run the ball whether it's working or not. And it's going to be guys who stick to their philosophies.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming on with us. That was great stuff. You really know it. Tell the people where they can follow you, how they can read your stuff.
Yeah, 7220sports.com. We have an app. I'm sure Texas Tech fans want to get all over that app, but I've actually really enjoyed breaking down Texas Tech. They always forget that even reporters want to hit somebody else, and we're tired of hitting our own guys all off season. So it's been nice to dive into another team. I've been watching the brand on Twitter, and I know a lot of the players and coaches have been watching that behind the scenes stuff on Tech. Tell you what, guys, you guys have a bright future, no doubt about it. And the future might be now. That's a fun team, and it's a team I pull for. Most of my family resides in Stillwater, Oklahoma, so I got to pull for that team a little bit. But I've always liked Tech, man. Always liked it. I love when you guys take down the Horns and the Sooners, and that's going to be missed for sure. But love Tech, and best of luck every day but Saturday.
Absolutely. We'll try to find you when we're there.
Sounds good, fellas. Yeah, let's get a beer.
All right. Absolutely. Thanks, Cody.
Thanks Cody.
Guys.
All right, that was Cody Tucker from 7220sports.com. Great stuff. Really, really smart guy. And has me scared a little bit. Just a little bit.
I'm with you. I listened to a Wyoming sports podcast earlier today. They were very confident about the 14 and the possibility of an upset. but he really broke it down like position by position, and we're deep, we match up well here, and it got me. I was like, okay, well, yeah, like if the altitude is serious and they get a couple breaks, and the possessions are limited, I was ready to be like, oh yeah, 48-10, whatever. But now I'm not so sure. He gave us some good insight on the town of Laramie. One thing we didn't ask him about is where to find the best plate of barbecue.
I know where you can do it in West Texas.
Where's that, Rob?
That's ReginoBarbecue.com, ReginoBBQ.com. The Regino Barbecue Market. They were in Lubbock today, so they have their trailer working and out and about. I'm sure the people of Lubbock really enjoyed that this afternoon. They also are open 5 days a week. They're in Alton, Texas on 7th. You can go down from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Tuesday through Saturday, and then 7 days a week in the barbecue market. So if you can't make it out, if you're going through Alton on a Sunday, stop by anyways, get you some pre-cooked barbecue or a banana or something, whatever you want to do. There at the Alton Barbecue Market, the Regino Barbecue Market.
Or a banana.
Or a banana, the banana market. Shelly on the comment section says, did all the Missouri comparisons hurt anyone else's souls like mine? Yes, that was a little bit jarring to me.
Yeah, I guess I see it both ways. Like I've seen some Wyoming fans talk about how badly they got beat by Illinois last year, and they're just sort of dejected. Like, we don't have Power 5 talent. We saw how that went, that sort of attitude. But then I've also seen some compare this, and I don't know how many parallels there are to Mizzou in 2019. That was, I guess, under Brent Odom. He didn't last too long there. I don't know. I would like to think that is that right?
Barry
Odom. Did I say Brent?
Yeah,
Barry Odom. Kind of in between Pinkel and Dorkwitz. But, I don't know. I hope we're not primed for upset here. And I don't know.
Certainly could happen.
Sure.
I think I'll still pick Texas Tech to cover, but I'm a little more snug now than I was coming into the show.
It could happen. That's why you play the game.
Hey, by the way, if you're looking at this hat saying, "Dadgum," that is a beautiful hat. It is. It's a custom black felt cowboy hat. Brought to you by Flint Boot and Hat. Go check it out. Go get you one at Flint. They've got the straw and the felt ready for you. You could walk in today, get you a straw cowboy hat. They will steam it custom, and you can walk out the door that day. It's a beautiful, beautiful operation down there at Flint Boot and Hat.
It's a damn good looking gaucho hat, my friend.
It's a strong, strong hat. It's got the ribbon on the rim.
We're going up to Wyoming country. There's a lot of Pokes and Cowboys, and we're going to be bringing a bunch of gauchos with us. Like, hey, we are not the same, my friend. You might be a cowboy, but I'm a gaucho.
Did you see, this is not what you were talking about right there, but did you see the Joey Maguire impressions today?
Yes.
Okay, I thought of this when the Austin McNamara mic'd up came out. Joey Maguire walks up to Austin McNamara and says, "Sexiest punter in the land." And it's like, how often does he call these guys sexy? But a bunch of these guys in their impressions were like, "Hey, what's up, you sexy joker?"
Yeah, I think everybody's a sexy joker in the program.
Or a stud.
Yeah.
You're either a sexy joker or a stud. Sometimes both, I'm sure.
I want to go fast. That was the other thing, like half of them said.
Yeah.
I want to go fast.
Like banging on the wall.
Yeah.
Oh, man. That is the juxtaposition this weekend, though. Texas Tech wants to go fast, and Craig Bohl wants to go slow.
Yeah, as I've done a little bit of research, I found a lot of ways that these teams look like polar opposites, and then some where they look like they'll match up very evenly. And the tempo is maybe the biggest. Yeah, like the run game philosophy sort of intertwined with tempo. If you're passing the ball, you're probably going faster, and if you're running the clock, you're probably going slower. But like I said, I was listening to another Wyoming sports podcast, and I'm not trying to. Oh, hang on, my dogs are howling. You talk for a second.
That was a good howl, man. I don't know that I've ever heard him howl like that. But yeah, when you have the as you were saying right there, the passing makes you go faster. If you're a running team, you're going slower. I want to know about the amount of plays that were run. I know we averaged 80 last year. I wonder if the um, clock rules are going to change that at all. I was talking about the clock rules changing the amount of plays you run. The comment section also wants you to unmute immediately. They're now howling on the comment section.
Anyway, yes, that's a good point about the clock. That is going to slow you down even more and potentially limit your possessions even more than Wyoming's style of play would. So that's going to be – because, like, if you screw up, if you stub your toe on the first couple possessions and you're only going to get, like, 4 possessions in the first half,
yeah,
you're probably looking at, no matter what you're doing on the defensive side of the ball, a really competitive game at halftime. And to me, that's not a spot you want to be in. That allows Wyoming to continue running the ball, playing keep away. And I think it would suit you a lot better to get up early and make them throw the ball, rush the passer, all that good stuff. So anyway, this podcast I was listening to, it was interesting. I won't say it was like condescending, but a little bit dismissive. Like they thought it was kind of cute that we were flying up a day early to try to get acclimated to the altitude, which I've never been in altitude like that, but by all reports, it's serious. Like just walking to your seat at the stadium, you can run out of breath. I get it. I'm not trying to dismiss that the altitude is going to be a real factor. I think it will be. But they were like, yeah, when I first moved up there, because there were a couple former players on this podcast, they're like, I was there 2 or 3 days and still blacked out due to the altitude a couple days later. And so, okay, yeah, getting there a day early, maybe that doesn't allow you to fully acclimate, but it also, I don't think, hurts. And so I don't know, they just kind of talking about it in a way like, oh, that's cute that they think flying up a day early is going to help. They think it's borderline impossible that we can go up tempo on offense. They think that is just not going to work in the altitude. And maybe they're right, because as soon as you sub, if you're trying to go up tempo, the other team slow subs, and you're not going to snap the ball very quickly. So you've either got to score in 4 or 5 plays, but I don't think you can go tempo for 7 or 8 plays or more in this altitude. So that's going to be something to watch. They, I don't think they were fond of how Joey McGuire spoke about this game and his media availability. I think they mistook his just energy and optimism that comes so naturally to him as the word they used was it like a vacation, that he was kind of treating the Wyoming trip like, oh, I've never been to Wyoming before. They latched onto that soundbite and they were like, he's treating it like it's going to be some sort of trip or vacation experience. And I'm like, that's not what I don't think that's what he means by it.
I listened to the whole thing. I thought he was very respectful.
Yeah, I think so too. But I think they were just like, wait and see till you get here. Like this isn't some walk in the park. And I agree with that. Like the altitude isn't a walk in the park. And he made a comment that I almost wish like we could clip it and send it to somebody. It was, and I'm paraphrasing. I'm not trying to do it unfairly or anything, but this is just like my interpretation as a Tech fan listening to Wyoming content creators. Kind of like questioned the mental toughness component. Like, can you come up here in the altitude, run tempo, and last for 4 quarters? And I believe that the altitude is a real factor, but I don't think that if they're looking for a team that's going to fold, I think Texas Tech is not the one. And so if they're relying on halfway through the third quarter, oh, I'm tired, Coach McGuire, the altitude is getting to me. No, like they might be sucking wind, and we might be playing guys that are second string to keep everybody fresh, but I don't think we're going to bend or break between the ears. So I don't know. Maybe one team is in for a big surprise. Maybe that's Texas Tech completely out of their element, playing up in the elevation, and they're not ready for how tough Wyoming's defensive line is going to be. They're not ready to defend the run. Maybe we think this is a vacation instead of a business trip, or maybe Wyoming is going to be down 28-3 at halftime. I don't know. But anyway, that was sort of their perspective on it. they, like I said, they were confident in the plus 14 and in the likelihood of an upset. But here's the other thing that they couldn't get past. They think that Texas Tech is going to overlook them. They think that we're looking ahead to Oregon, and the players and coaches just can't help but do that when you've got a top 15 coming to your home stadium. And so they hypothesize, not from any comments made in the media or anything, but they just assume that a Power 5 program like Texas Tech is going to overlook a Group of 5 opponent when they've got Oregon the next week, especially with our starting quarterback, that being his former team. They think that maybe Tyler Shuck is going to overlook Wyoming and be ready for his kind of revenge game 2 weeks from now against Oregon.
I would say that probably has some whispers of truth, except for Joey McGuire in his press conference said the last time, like he knew this off the top of his head. He's like, in 1991, we went to Wyoming and we're 17-point favorites and lost. So that's not going to happen again. I think he's focused. And I don't think it's a vacation for him. I think it's a business trip, but I think you can be complimentary of another city and how beautiful it is and still be worried about the football. A couple of comments here. NB says, people always forget Lubbock's at 35,000 feet. 3,500 feet, sorry. People always forget that Lubbock's at 3,500 feet. It's definitely not 7,200, but we're probably amongst the most acclimated opponent.
I don't buy that for a second.
You know, it's not Houston.
No, it's not Houston, but I think there's there's probably an effect where like the difference between 2,000 and 3,000 isn't as much of the difference between 6,200 and 7,200. Like I think the more you climb, the more severe it gets. And talking to people that have lived there, played there, I don't think it's just like, like after I jog around for 30 minutes, it's going to feel kind of like Lubbock because we're at 3,800 feet or 3,200 feet, whatever we are. I think the altitude is going to be a big deal in this game, and I would caution against dismissing that as a big factor.
Daniel says, I think all of these people are right. I wish we had depth at even one position and some veteran players. If only we had an attitude of being a tough, competitive, hardworking team. If only.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if they're banking on Texas Tech not being mentally tough enough, in the words of Patrick Mahomes, you picked the wrong mother effer.
Do you have something else there?
What do you mean?
I just thought you had another thought.
No, just from the Mahomes, you woke up the wrong mother effer. If they think Texas Tech is going to be mentally soft or weak, that's not going to happen.
I'm here. I'm excited for Wyoming to try to ground and pound against the depth Texas Tech has on the defensive line. This game is going to absolutely test our biggest question mark at the linebacker positions. Yes. It's a really good matchup for Texas Tech to learn what they have. At altitude, it's a test for BYU. The running game, it's a test for Kansas State and Baylor. And this is an opportunity for Texas Tech to kind of figure out what you have defensively. If you dominate Wyoming, I think you have a really good opportunity to have a good season in the Big 12. Not because Wyoming's Wyoming, but just because this is a style of play that a few of the teams in the Big 12 have, and it's an opportunity to play at elevation and get used to it for later in the season when you have to come back for BYU.
I agree. And so we've covered some of the ways that the teams are opposites. Let me make sure I've covered all my notes here. Fourth down. This was interesting. Of course, as Texas Tech fans, we know that we had the most fourth down attempts in the country last year.
Right.
Didn't realize just how conservative. Obviously, we're going to be more aggressive than any opponent in that respect, but it sounds like Wyoming is far below average. Did he say 7 fourth down attempts last year?
7.
So 1 every other game, roughly?
Yeah.
Whereas we're going for it, 4 or 5 times a game on average. Maybe more than that. I think we got up into like the 70s, so maybe more like 6 times per game. So that's going to be – that's always a big – fourth down stops are huge for any defense. Fourth down conversions are huge for any offense. But again, I'm thinking of ways where this could be a really competitive game in the second half. And I think one way that could unfold is if you go for it twice on fourth down in the first half and you miss both of them, give their conservative offense better field position than they would have otherwise gotten. That could help you. It could hurt you. And I don't know. We talked about this just in the sense of Texas Tech probably being favored in a lot more games this year than they were last year. Do they go a little more conservative? Whereas last year they had to be aggressive on fourth down. I don't know. Here's something that I'm really going to watch. I think I've got this number right. If it's wrong, it's close. But I think that Tony Bradford and Jalen Hutchings combined have 67 or 73 or 76 career starts. And he told us their starting left guard has not played in a college football game before.
Yeah.
I don't know which one, Hutchings or Bradford, is going to be lined up over him more often than not. I'm sure it'll depend on formation and all that. But that could be a matchup that is primed for a total ass kicking. I mean, you're talking about maybe the best interior defensive lineman in the Big 12 in Jalen Hutchings going up against a guy who's never played college football before. That could get ugly. That, I think, covers the way that they're opposites and matchups where I think we could potentially expose them or be exposed. But there's more similarities than I realized.
Okay.
They have a 6'3", 6'4" corner, apparently, who Cody said is not going to shadow Jaron Bradley. We'll see. I'm curious if he's not going to shadow Bradley, if he's only going to play one side of the field, do we keep Bradley away from him? Do we do a quick motion to put Bradley in the slot to try to kind of avoid that matchup? Or do we just say, you're one of the best receivers in the country, go beat him, and if he's got you blanketed, then we've got other options. So I think that'll be an interesting battle to follow. They have a running quarterback. We have a running quarterback. That's an element that I think Texas Tech mostly did okay with last year. Like Clayton Tune, pretty good runner. Trying to think of some other guys. Adrian Martinez kind of torched us. Spencer Sanders, I think, kept him in check most of the game.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'll be curious to see how we defend the quarterback run game. That sounds like that's how they get some of their more explosive plays. And then I guess this is a way we're similar, but also a potential matchup exposure. He said they have the best interior defensive line tandem in the Mountain West, and it's not even close. They've got a dude nicknamed Mustard Gas. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you've got two good. Oh, the backup's name is Mustard Gas?
Yeah.
Okay, I got that confused. I thought he was talking about one of the starters. But you've got a left guard, Cole Spencer, who missed last year with injury, and a starting center, Rusty Stats. Tons of experience at the Conference USA level with Western Kentucky. But those two are making their first appearance at Texas Tech against a really good, experienced, skilled defensive front on the other side. Like I told Cody, that was probably our worst position group last year. I think the offensive line has the most to prove. And so I'm curious if their interior defensive line eats our lunch to the extent that I think Jalen Hutchings and Tony Bradford are going to eat their lunch. That's something I'm watching. It all starts up front, and if we can't run the ball or pass protect, that could throw a wrench in things pretty quickly. So I was Cole Spencer, Rusty Stats guys that I was, of course, looking forward to watching as is, but especially with this matchup, it sounds like they're going to be tested really early.
Tad says, Rob, are you excited? Yes, I was just a little distracted there because of the Texas Rangers are blowing another save, but they have the bases loaded. Last Sunrise says, by the way, don't drink with those guys. I won't be there to save you. I am prepared to not drink as many beers as I would in Lubbock because of the elevation. So I'm also preparing for the elevation. I want you to give me some comments on this, Kyle. Chase says this is quite possibly the best defense Tech has had in the Big 12. Do you think this could be Texas Tech's best defense ever in the Big 12?
That's a good question. I think 05 and 08 were really good. I think 2013, when healthy, is underrated. They lost 5 games in a row. coincidentally, when I think both Kerry Hyder and Dartwan Bush got hurt. 2013 is probably a stretch compared to the other two I named, but I don't know, maybe. Like, again, we've talked about some guys that are unproven, but if Steve Linton gets double-digit sacks and Josiah Pierre and Jacob Rodriguez can play inside linebacker, then yeah, I think you might be, at least in the conversation for sure.
Trying to go back to 2013, 30.5 points per game. 2009 was 22.5 points per game, but that's as far as it goes back. That was one of your better defenses in 2009.
Yeah, that was good defense too.
I don't think you've been better than 30 since 2009 points per game. Last year was the first year, 29.2. Some of those years were 40. Good God. Will Peasley's completion percentage be over under 55%? Last year was 52.4.
I hope under. I think if our pass rushers are as good as we think they are, and our DBs are as good and experienced as we think they are, why should we give up a higher completion percentage than, your average Mountain West defense? Then again, if they never test us down the field and he's throwing it behind the line of scrimmage, then who cares if he completes 70% of his passes?
Right.
So,
Kyle, I know this is a Texas Tech podcast. We're talking about Wyoming. The Texas Rangers are going to kill me.
Sorry to hear that.
They're going to murder me. They just had the bases loaded in the top of the 10th inning and lined out to the shortstop and then hit into a double play. No runs. Anyways, you can continue.
Is that bad?
That's bad. It's after being up in the 8th inning and giving up immediately 2 runs to retie it. Oh, man. Sorry, our Rangers. Yeah, you're right, Tad. Our Rangers are going to kill me. What else you got?
I don't know. Tell me what you think. I feel like I've been rambling a little bit.
I like your rambling, Kyle. You're prepared. Let's see. Jackson says if the Rangers end up as the 6th seed, they murder the Twins. I don't know. The Twins just beat them 3 out of 4.
I mean, the Twins are as rock solid as it gets in the postseason, so.
They've never lost, right? Or never won? Which one is it?
Yeah, I think I'm waiting on my first. Forget a series. I don't think we've won a postseason game since I was in 5th grade. Maybe not quite that. That might be right. Maybe it's a series since I was in elementary school, and we haven't won a game since 10 or 11. Kind of toward the end of Joe Mauer's prime. So, yeah, I love postseason baseball. It's, so good to me every year.
Anyways, Wyoming, I think it's a game of possessions. I think if you can have enough possessions, you can win by 14. I think you just have to get those possessions in. I don't know. I was so confident before we talked to Cody, and Cody kind of shook me. But I think you can run the ball. I think you can throw the ball. And I think you can stop the run well enough to make them get in some uncomfortable positions. And if you put Peasley in an uncomfortable position, I don't think he's good enough to get you where they want to go. So I think defensively you're good enough, and I think offensively you're better than they are, and I think you should win by 15.
Let's do it this way before we make our Texas Tech and Big 12 picks. If this is a one-possession game in the 4th quarter, what does that look like? Why is that the case?
If it's a one-possession game in the 4th quarter, it's because Wyoming scored at the end of the 3rd, and you're going down to retake a 2-possession lead. Or that Texas Tech just hasn't scored as much as I think. If it's a one-possession game, it's 17-10. I don't think you're going to find Wyoming in a one-possession game where it's 35-42 or 35-38 there in the fourth quarter. I just if it's tight in the fourth quarter, it's because you started slow, I think. What would you say to that?
I agree with a lot of that. I also, in these games where one team knows the group of five versus power five dynamic and non-conference game, like we've got nothing to lose, you start talking like trick plays, surprise onside kicks. It's kind of, you remember in 2021 when we were playing Dana in Houston, and he went for it on every fourth down, surprise onside kick, they get the ball back, they go for it on every fourth down. It's 14-0 before I can jump out of BJ Simmons' suite. And so if they play you like that and it works, or vice versa, like if they get a couple fourth down stops, or if our offensive line isn't ready for their defensive line, I think that's how it goes. Like, it's kind of cliche, but with the opposite styles, I think whoever dictates that the best. And again, the sort of existing margin, the scoring margin in the game is going to play a big role in this. But if it's close and Wyoming can play time of possession, they can run the ball, that bodes well for them. But if they find themselves down 14 or 17, they've got to quit screwing around and doing that. You make them throw. I think you can hang on to the lead and hopefully extend the lead, because that's when your DBs are making plays on the ball. You can unleash Steve Linton and Miles Cole. I think the altitude, like if we scrape out a close win by 7 points, or if we lose, and in the post-game press conference, the players say, like, there was just no preparing for this, no acclimating for it, we underestimated it, couldn't do anything in the moment, I wouldn't be surprised at that. I don't want them to use that as an excuse, but I don't want to dismiss the effect the altitude will have. I think that's a serious deal.
I think Wyoming in the Craig Bohl era is like 500 at home. So I don't think it's as big a deal as maybe it's played out to be. I mean, they don't have this huge home field advantage where they win at an 80% clip at home. So, and of course, a lot of that is, teams that are closer in elevation going and playing there, and Utah and the Mountain West schools and BYU and whoever else is going down there. But it's also a bunch of schools at sea level going over there too. So I don't know. I think it's an issue, but I don't think it's going to lose the game. If you lose, I don't think it's because of the elevation. And I think you're deep enough to where, except for maybe at linebacker, run out three guys deep at most positions there in the secondary and the defensive line.
I don't think you'll lose because of altitude. But so imagine a drive like this. We're going tempo and we get down to the red zone in 5 plays. But then plays 6, 7, and 8, our guys are winded and we can't score. We kick a field goal. Yeah. And let's say that happens 3 times and you leave 12 points on the table by taking 3 instead of 7 every time. That's a way that Wyoming stays in the game. And again, with possessions being so limited and so valuable, getting 3 is always going to feel like you left some meat on the bone.
Yes, I do agree with that thought process. The Rangers lost.
Sorry, man.
That's right. They've done that a lot lately. I'm used to it. Did you notice that Pistol Pete got ripped off by Wyoming? I'd never seen Cowboy Joe or whoever. What do they call him? Whatever they call him, it's a direct ripoff of Pistol Pete. I've never seen that before.
Do we know for sure that Oklahoma State didn't steal it from Wyoming?
We do. We do know that for sure. Oklahoma State won the battle.
I like their fight song. So they also sort of appropriated this Ragtime Cowboy Joe song that it's actually about New Mexico State is in on it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They got sued.
Really?
Yeah, they can't use it.
So their fight song is a play on this old Western song called Ragtime Cowboy Joe. It's about a cowboy from Arizona, but they say "Old Wyoming" instead of Arizona in the fight song. But it's pretty cool. I like it.
I listened to that today.
I'm big on the whole ethos of this, the Red Raiders versus the Cowboys, Gauchos, the American West, all that good stuff. You listen to the Wyoming playlist?
I did. I listened to several of them.
Did you add that Afro Man?
No, I didn't add it. Did you listen to that?
No, I haven't. I didn't know that song. I haven't listened to it yet.
I'll let you listen to it before we add it to the public playlist.
I'm guessing it's not PG.
No, it's not. No. There's some good rhymes for Laramie in it, though.
Yeah, I listened to a song about Laramie, and he rhymed it with like "taking care of me." I was like, I respect that, because if I'm a songwriter and I'm trying to rhyme Laramie, I'm probably not getting anything as smooth as "taking care of me."
Shelly wants to know if you can sing "Old Ragtime Cowboy Joe," Kyle, and get your dogs to back you up.
Can I fire it up, or will YouTube kick us off?
Well, YouTube would kick us off if it was fired up, but you could sing it a cappella maybe.
Let me look up the words. It goes so fast. But yeah, I'll sing it. I'll probably sing it in the stadium too after like one Coors Light.
We've got some barometric pressures in the chat. Laramie, Wyoming, the barometric pressure is 30.26. Sea level is 29.2. Lubbock is 30.16. I don't know what any of that means.
I don't either.
But fair enough. Lots of science going on that Daniel loves. He's a medical guy. You got the lyrics?
Yeah. So I have to do this.
No, you don't have to.
Starts really slow. It's like, he always sings raggedy music to the cattle as he swings back and forward in a saddle on a horse that is syncopated, gated. There is such a funny meter to the roar of his repeater, how they run. Oh, when they hear the fella's gun. He's a highfalutin, rootin' tootin'. See, this is son of a gun from Arizona. I think they say son of a gun from old Wyoming, ragtime cowboy Joe.
Nice.
And they spell like C-O-W. I think it'll be cool if the whole stadium gets into it. It's a good song. Like the original ragtime cowboy Joe Old West is, I think it's catchy.
2 opinions on that singing. First opinion, absolutely beautiful. Second opinion, torture.
To the roar of his repeater, how they run. That's a cool song. I like it. There's some good songs. You know, there's not a ton of diversity in like music genre in terms of songs about Wyoming, but there were some good ones, I thought. That playlist is on our YouTube channel if you want to check it out and get in a Wyoming mood before you head to Laramie or turn on the game on Saturday if you're watching on TV.
I'm going to move that over to Apple and play it on the way down there.
Sweet. Did you ever figure out our Spotify account?
No, I don't think we ever had one.
We probably don't. I probably just made that up.
We might have, but it's probably the same password that we use for other things. Just take a shot at it.
He's a highfalutin, rootin' tootin'.
Nailed it. Tad says that's the last time I want to hear that song.
It's a cool song. Okay?
Well, but you don't want them scoring a bunch.
No, but I get it.
Yeah. Or you want to make picks first, or do you want to finish with our picks after the mailbag?
I think that you should go fish before we do the mailbag.
If I was going to fish, Kyle, I would wade fish in legendary Baffin Bay with Wreckham Outdoors and Captain Preston Long. I don't think I've said this enough. Their Instagram has some crazy photos of big fish. All of the fish that you can catch there at Baffin Bay. Go follow them on Instagram. Wreckham Outdoors. Follow them online, WreckhamOutdoors.com. It's all West Texas, but if you're going to the Gulf of West Texas, you can go to the legendary Baffin Bay and wade fish with the fine Red Raider. Go down there and book your travel, book your stay, and then go out to Baffin Bay. All right, you ready for the mailbag?
A long way from Wyoming. So if you're in Laramie this weekend, maybe not, but otherwise.
It's quite a bit different elevation.
Why don't you elevate this mailbag intro?
Elevate something.
You've got mail.
Mail time.
The mail's here. Come on.
I found these in my mailbag.
Well, it's time to reach into the old mailbag here.
Enjoy reading the fan mail. Don't read it all at once.
Any mail for me? You don't have a Tic Tac, do you? Did I get any mail?
No. Why not, honey?
All right, start, bench, cut, Kyle. Dallas, Wyoming, happy. All teams
Dallas?
with cowboy mascots.
Oh. I'll start happy, bench Wyoming, and cut our Cowboys.
I would bench Dallas and start happy. Go West Texas. Start, bench, cut, Oklahoma State's Pistol Pete, Wyoming's Cowboy Joe, and the New Mexico State Aggie.
Start Wyoming, bench New Mexico State, cut the Oklahoma State ripoff.
I would start Pistol Pete because he's the real one.
Is he, though?
Yes.
Is he, though?
You know what? I don't know. You've convinced me.
See, I've sowed enough doubt that who knows?
Have you ever crapped your pants while recording a live podcast?
Not a live podcast, no. No.
Should there be a channel for just the Kyles in the Discord?
Are you going to answer any of these questions, or?
I have never shit my pants while recording a live podcast. No, sorry, crapped. I edited that the first time, and then I forgot to edit it the second time. I have crapped my pants before, but not during a live podcast. I was awfully close a couple of times.
All right, what's the next question?
Should there be a channel for just the Kyles?
No, but are we up to 4 now in the Discord?
There's a lot of Kyles.
Yeah, it's too much.
Should there be a channel for everyone but the Kyles? All right.
By the way, when I say there's too much, that was like a I wasn't taking a shot at the other Kyles.
How old were you the last time you pooped your pants?
I don't even remember. I must have been pretty young.
I was 34. What's the snuggest under on beers consumed on Saturday by kickoff?
By like us as individuals?
Let's go with the folks in Wyoming.
Every person in the state of Wyoming?
The picadors that are in Wyoming.
What do you think, about 15 of us?
Let's say 15.
Times 6 beers is 90. I think that's a healthy over-under. 90 beers.
Yeah, all day by kickoff, I would take the over on 90.
Kickoff is at 5:30 local time.
5:30 local. Snug over. Let's see. What is your perfect pregame tailgate meal?
Rehino barbecue.
Yeah.
I'm doing the ad plug there, but also that's my serious answer.
Yeah, so I mean, for sure barbecue. They did a barbecue nachos bar at one tailgate last year. That was insane. That was really good. What is the perfect pregame tailgate drink choice to complement said meal? Light beer.
Yeah, Coors Light.
Yeah. No free ads. Where do you stand on themed tailgate meals, i.e. frog legs for TCU, steak versus Texas?
I'm okay with it, but I don't require it.
You're not a frog leg guy?
Not necessarily. Like if you tell me we're having brisket before TCU, or like, hey, we're not gonna go full Utah pig bus before Arkansas, I'm not going to be like, well, I'm not coming to your tailgate then. So if you want to do a themed one, that's cool, but I don't need it.
Okay. Do you draft your fantasy football team based on research or vibes?
I guess I can disclose my strategy because I don't think anybody in either of my leagues is listening. I pretty much just go best player available. Most years, I probably trade 80% of the players that I draft, so I'm not like, oh, I need a quarterback this round. If there's a good receiver, I just draft a receiver, and then I'll trade him for a good quarterback later.
So you're best available?
For the most part. I mean, within reason. Like, if there's one good tight end left on the board, and he's a few spots down from where I would like to, I'll probably pick him if I'm not going for another 20 picks. But yeah, like I had a bunch of receivers, and George Pickens was there really late, like 10th or 11th round. So I was like, yeah, I don't need him, but I'll draft George Pickens, and I'll either trade him or one of the guys I drafted above him for a different position I need later on. But I know guys, they're so attached to their team. They're like, oh, I don't want to make any trades, so at least week 6. Like I have to give the guys that I drafted a chance. I'm like, they're not real employees. You have no attachment to them.
I love trading in fantasy sports.
Yeah, I'm like, what do you do? Like, is it a pride thing that like you have to draft the best team? Like, in my opinion, it's way more fun to trade and use the waiver wire. So I'm not attached to anybody that I draft. I'm like, I'll trade anybody. I don't care.
How many years would it take Joey McGuire to win a state championship at your high school alma mater? My alma mater just won the state championship. So I think you're slipping into a warm bed there. I think maybe 2 years he could get back.
For my high school's entire existence, 40 years, their ceiling has kind of been like second or third round. And that's in like a really good year. So I don't want to say Joey can't do it, but I don't know if I'd be like, well, he's going to get one within this many years. I'd be like, I'd be impressed if he could get one, period, and no matter how many years he's there.
Would you say the Vikings are primed to win the NFC North again?
God, would Big Hen just drop this? He thinks it's like the lock of the century and just cannot be convinced that anybody else has a chance to win maybe the most wide open division in the NFL.
Have you ever been on a solo date?
I go to the movies or I used to sometimes.
What Texas Tech player do you think would affect the spread the most if he was injured? Dangerous question there, knock on wood.
What do you think?
Man, I don't know. That's a tough question because you're thinking offense. The easiest answer is quarterback, but I think Baron Morton is good. As good as Tyler Shuck. Maybe one of those Josiah Pierre. Would the run game really break loose? Jalen Hutchings? Would the run game really break loose if one of those interior defensive linemen or linebackers got hurt? I don't know. That's a tough question.
I've alluded to this before on the podcast that I don't think people, if you don't gamble, that's obviously totally fine, but I don't think you should just be totally unaware of lines and odds, even if you're not a gambler, because it can be informative. And a light bulb went off for me one time. I was listening to Colin Cowherd explain why he refused to vote for anybody besides a quarterback for NFL and MVP. This was like when J.J. Watt was in his prime and had all these sacks and strip sacks. And he was like, well, J.J. Watt missed the game last week. He was ruled out on Wednesday, and the line moved 1 point. He's like, if Tom Brady gets ruled out on a Wednesday, the line moves 7 points. And so, in my opinion, the answer is always quarterback.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not so drastic at the college level versus NFL, but the best defensive player in the NFL in that example made a 1 point difference, and the best quarterback in the league at the time made a 7 point difference. So, again, I think it's worthwhile to know stuff like that. It helps frame questions like that. So I don't think that the drop-off from Shuck to Morton would be huge or anything. But if I'm looking at it from Vegas's perspective, they're probably not going to move it at all hardly if our left guard or our middle linebacker or our corner is out. But if Tyler Shuck is out, especially if we're 4-0 and he's having a good season, they'll move it.
What is the highest level of crime you would commit to win a national championship in football this season?
I would be a first-time offender. I could probably, like, high-level misdemeanor, get it mostly dismissed, and, community service, especially with the help of our friends over at Barnett, Howard, and Williams. Thanks for the alley-oop there.
Did you see the Eric Gilbert footage of him trying to break into that place, the player from Nebraska?
No, I saw this headline, but I haven't read any of that.
So he wraps his face up in his T-shirt, and it almost looks like he's in a storage facility. He kicks the door down, walks through the hallway, shirtless, shirts over his face, gets into the vape store, but it looks like it's in like this hallway. It was a weird setup. He's carrying a bag of stuff out, and you see it. He's walking through the hallway. It goes back. It cuts back to the front door, and it's 6 cops waiting on him. They're just waiting for him to come back out. And he finally sees him, and he's like, "Oh!" He drops his stuff all on the ground. Yeah, that's pretty rough.
Yeah, even as a first-time offender, a low-level felony, you're still looking at minimum of 1 year. And even if I got that, bargained down to 3 to 6 months, I'm not going to jail.
No. You got family to take care of.
Yeah, but high-level misdemeanor, if I'm looking at community service, no jail time. I don't want to hurt anybody.
Right.
But I'll go vandalize some property that's under an insurance policy or, whatever.
Sure.
As long as nobody gets hurt in the process.
I think that's misdemeanor would be I'm not committing any felonies for Texas Tech.
Yeah, no, I'm out at committing felonies, but misdemeanor, if I need to put a bag of weed on me to get Tech. Was it a Big 12 title or a national title?
National. Well,
shoot, I might do some low-level felonies. Just Class B or something.
If you're staying out of jail?
No. Joking, Mom, if you're listening. I will not do any felonies. If I did a felony, it would be like illegal stock trading. I'm still not trying to, hurt anybody.
Yeah. All right, that's the mailbag.
All right.
20-minute mailbag.
We got some picks to make, my friend.
Let's do it.
We doing like all Big 12 games?
Yeah, let's do the Big 12 games. There's not a whole lot outside of the Big 12. There's a couple if you want to talk about them, like Clemson, Duke, Florida State, LSU, but
I'm actually going to – so quick Patreon plug, patreon.com/gamblinggauchos. We do have some paywalled podcast episodes up there. You get access to the Discord server. We also are going to try to put out weekly sort of an analytics versus the odds kind of deal where there's a discrepancy and see if any of these models can outperform the odds in the long run. I'm sure there'll be good weeks and bad weeks. So all FBS versus FBS games, no matter what conference, we've looked at their FPI, Sagarin, SP Plus compared it to the spread in Vegas, the money line odds. And if there's a large discrepancy, we've highlighted those games. If you want to check those out, feel free. Those aren't necessarily all picks per se, but that's on our Patreon. It's $5 a month. Great value. Critics are raving. Patreon.com/gamblinggauchos. And there were, by the way, a couple of Big 12 games that were identified by one analytics source or another as potentially strong plays.
Really?
Really.
I saw that drop today. I hadn't read it yet.
Yeah, it's kind of – I threw it together really quick, and I try to – it's a lot of numbers and kind of a lot of – not a lot of words. I try to explain it as best I can, but if I say something that doesn't make sense, like DM me or whatever on Patreon or put it in the Discord, and I'll try to clear it up. But anyway, first one, tomorrow, Thursday, Big 12 football is back. Big 12 staple, Big 12 legend, UCF, laying 35.5 against the Kent State, Golden Flashes or something, whatever they are.
Zips? Golden Zips?
That's Akron. Akron is the Zips.
Golden Rock, that's Toledo.
I think our boy Andrew Souter is no longer with Kent State.
Nope.
Or was he with Akron? Now I can't remember. I think it was Kent State.
He was with Kent State.
He's tight ends coach now at Minnesota, the pride of shallow water. Anyway, Golden Knights, Golden Flashes, whatever Kent State is, 35.5. What do you think? That's a big line, and this is the first Big 12 game, so we want to come out of the gates hot here.
Yeah, that's a huge line. UCF going to be rip-roaring, trying to make a name for themselves in the Big 12. This is in Orlando. It's their first game as a Big 12 member at home. Let's take them to cover 35.5.
I'm going the opposite. It's just too many points for me. Give me the Golden Flashes or whoever they are for plus 35.5.
Whoever they are.
Whatever. See, I tried to filter this on the Big 12, and it is acting up.
If you're on action, you might have to do it a couple times.
I'm trying to. Here's the next one I see. Oklahoma is hosting Arkansas State, part of their joke of a non-conference schedule and just overall schedule. On action, I am showing 35. Are you laying the points, or are you taking the Arkansas State Red Wolves to cover?
See, this is just ridiculous. 35 again with a total of 58.5. You know what? I took it for UCF. I'm not going to take it twice. I'll go Arkansas State here.
Since I picked OU to win the Big 12 in our season futures episode with BJ Simmons, probably not a good look if they can't come out of the gates strong. Mostly hoping here, but give me the Sooners minus 35. Also, just kind of because I took the huge line on the Kent State.
Yeah.
Took the points there. So this is a big one. This is probably the one getting the most noise nationally. Colorado, TCU, Coach Prime making his debut at the Power 5 level. 20.5 is the number. This game is in Fort Worth. TCU roughed him up pretty good last year up in Boulder. Of course, Chandler Morris gets hurt in the first half. Max Duggan takes over and never looks back. Frogs minus 20.5. What do you think?
That game was so ugly the entire time. One of the ugliest games of the year.
And it was an after dark that was rain delayed. It was like supposed to be 8:30, and then they kicked off at like 9:15. And of course, I stayed up and watched it because it was week 1, and I was like, let's go.
Give me Colorado plus 20.
I'm fading Coach Prime. Give me the Frogs minus 20.5. The tightest line in the Big 12, or that features a Big 12 team, Houston is hosting UTSA. The Roadrunners are 1.5-point favorites. I think you can get it at 2 at some books. Half a point there might make a big difference. Last year, this game went into either double or triple overtime, and Houston came out on top in the Alamo Dome. Jeff Traylor, Dana Holgerson. What do you think on this one?
Give me Houston plus 2, but that's just my respect for Donovan Smith, Dogovan, as we call him. I think he'll be good. And look, UTSA, I think, has been good. I think they might have hit their limit on what exactly they can do. So I'll take Houston here.
We've got a couple folks on YouTube here commenting. If you want to make your own picks as we go, feel free. We're also on the Action app. If you want to follow us there, it's where we kind of submit some of these. I'm with you. I think this game is close to a toss-up. For me, this is an analytics play. A lot of analytics actually lean Houston, even though the spread leans UTSA. Give me Houston plus 2. Same deal. I'm kind of pulling for Donovan to have a good season, except for one Saturday in Lubbock. Baylor hosts Texas State, one of their 8 home games this year. That's a joke, by the way. 27.5-point favorites. Texas State, led by first-year head coach G.J. Kinney. Bears minus 27.5. What do you think?
I think Baylor can cover this. It was a huge game for Baylor last year. Texas State stinks. They are bad. I don't think it'll be as big of a. It was like 60-3 last year. I don't think it'll be like that, but I think they can cover late. As much as I don't like Baylor.
I'm with you. I think Baylor minus 27.5. Staying kind of in the state of Texas, but really in Provo, Utah. BYU is hosting newly minted FBS program Sam Houston State. They get the call up this season. Sam Houston State, 20-point dogs in Provo to the Cougars. Your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, this is the Bearcats' first. Did you say that? The first game in the FBS?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was adjusting my hat while you were talking. On the road, let's say BYU covers this one. I don't think all the Big 12 teams will cover, but let's say BYU covers this one. These huge lines are just toss-ups. I don't know anything.
I like BYU here. I'm not going to do the FCS versus FBS ones. So like Missouri State at Kansas, UNI at Iowa State, even though I think that might be a competitive game. Just going to skip those. Eastern Kentucky at Cincinnati, skipping that. Southeast Missouri at Kansas State, skipping that.
Yeah.
Rice at Texas. Former President John F. Kennedy's favorite game on the calendar every year. If you know, you know. The Owls getting 35.5 in Austin against a shredded Quinn Ewers, who has an offseason six-pack. 35.5, what do you think?
This is the third 35.5 game. I have a split so far. Rice is Rice. I'll take Texas to cover. I don't like it, but I think that's a easy cover.
I agree. I think Texas covers. I hope all the Texas fans who get mad when I tweet that we're their Super Bowl listen to this podcast and hear me make a positive prediction for the Longhorns. Back when they were good with like Vince Young and Colt McCoy, they used to win FCS and they'd play North Texas or Rice and they would win 70-3. So if they're as good as they're supposed to be, they'll cover the 35.5. Central Arkansas at Oklahoma State, going to skip it. This one is primetime Saturday night on NBC. The Big Ten's debut on NBC. West Virginia, led by your boy, Neil Brown. They go to Happy Valley to play number 7 Penn State. They are getting 20.5.
People expect me to probably pick against Neil Brown. I'm going to say Neil Brown and the West Virginia Mountaineers cover week 1 against Penn State. So I'll take the Mountaineers.
Give me Penn State. That's going to be a big environment. 110,000 people, and I don't know, man. I don't think it goes well. I hope that they play a competitive game, but give me the Nittany Lions. And then the big one.
The big one.
The Red Raiders versus the Cowboys. Minus 14 is the number. The total is 50.5. We've previewed Texas Tech's roster and depth chart and what we think of them this season. We just had a good conversation with Cody about Wyoming. And I think at least for me, early on, like this summer, I was like, yeah, the altitude, road game, first time out of the gates, I don't know. And then I drank the offseason Kool-Aid and I was like, Tech by 50. And then I talked to Cody and I was like, crap, I hope we can – a win is a win. We're not going to complain about a road win.
Yeah.
So I don't know where I'm at. I'll decide in the next few seconds when you explain where you're at.
I'm just going to give you a score. 31-13. Texas Tech gets it done and covers. 31-13. And that is shaving off some aggression here from earlier. I was in the 42 range, like a 42-17. 31-13. If they score any more than 17, I'll be a little upset.
I'm going to basically copycat you, not intentionally. I'll say 34-17. That's a really snug over, covered by a field goal. I would love to be wrong. I don't think it'll get to the point where you can just pull away and we're in like total blowout territory where you win by 3+ touchdowns. I also don't see us sweating in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of playing the middle here, but yeah, I'll say 34-17 Red Raiders. Snug over. I don't really care about the total. I'm not recommending any sort of play there, but I do think we'll cover, but not by some huge margin, 16-17.
I guess I would have the under there.
Yeah.
So there you go. I would have taken the over, but
might not be a bad pick. Like with their tempo and with the rule changes, we might not get more than 7 possessions, if it goes really well for Wyoming.
All right, there's 90 minutes of us.
We're back, baby. I will see you tomorrow in Denver. I will see a bunch of other listeners, parlay picadors. What a time, man. We're going to watch college football this weekend with our friends. We get some Thursday and Friday night action. And then the real deal there in War Memorial Stadium, Laramie, Wyoming, at 7,220 feet in elevation.
It's going to be a good day.
Can't wait.
Let's go fast.
Let's go fast. I want to see my cowboy hat. I'm eager to.
Yeah.
I've got the rest of the outfit ready to go. Gen Z, how they talk, they say like, oh, it's giving this, it's giving that.
Yeah.
Tried it on for my wife. She said it's giving Wyoming. So I think I nailed it.
Nice. I think I'm going to go with a polo.
A red one, right? We're wearing red.
They want you to wear red. I got a red polo.
Joey said wear red.
Final thoughts?
Happiness is not something ready-made. It comes from your own actions.
Happiness is not something ready-made. It comes from your own actions. I like that. You got to work for it. All right. We also said we were going to do some pregame speeches. Do you still want to do that?
I forgot about that.
I did too. I thought of it this afternoon when I wrote down what we were doing. I also misspelled speech, I think, in the headline. It's all right. It happens. I'll go delete the tweet later. Well, let's just think of some lines we might see from the cinematic recap.
He could take I've seen football coaches do this for game one, almost like the reverse psychology on a pregame speech. Like, hey, if I have to say something to you right now to get you fired up to go out there, then something's not right. Like, you've worked all off season for this. You're with your brothers, your teammates. This is the sport you played your entire life. If I have to say something right now to inspire you to run out there and give it all you got, then something's wrong. So you could go that route. I don't know if that would be in the cinematic recap. I also don't think that's Joey's style. I think he'll want to say something, not just tell his team, I shouldn't have to say something.
We're going to have some lines about elevation. You're high enough. Don't matter.
I bet some, on the road elevation, we'll get some Brand Don't Care, some what's next on those types of sentiments. Brand Don't Care that you're sucking wind because we're at 7,000 feet. What's next?
60 minutes of us.
Yeah, he might try to flip it and say, they're probably on the other side wondering if we can take 60 minutes of playing at this altitude. The real question is, are they ready for 60 minutes of us?
Mark it down.
You want to know the worst high school pump-ups? I have 2 actually really bad ones from my high school career. Do we have time for this?
Yeah, we do.
Freshman year, freshman B-team backup quarterback, you're looking at him. And our head coach comes into the locker room, and this is what he says to us. He goes, none of you will ever play quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. I was like, all right, where's this going? And the theme was basically, and maybe some nicer, more inspiring words like, y'all aren't that good at football, but go out there and fake it till you make it. Play the game as if you're good at it.
Yeah.
And I was like, what was that, man? I like turned to my friend. I was like, we're supposed to be fired up at that. And then the other bad one was when I was on varsity my senior year. We were about to play in the playoffs, and we were at like a neutral site stadium. So the home and away locker rooms are like right next to each other, and shared a wall and everything. And we're getting dressed. It's like 2 minutes before we go out on the field. And we're all like kind of at our lockers. It's quiet. Then we hear them on the other side. They're like screaming like, ah! And they're like banging on them. And we're like, in my mind, I'm like, all right, let's go. Like if that's how it's going to be, then let's somebody say something to like get everybody screaming and banging a bunch of crap. And our coach just goes, hey, those guys have no idea what's coming. And like that was the pregame speech. It was like, and I don't think we lost because like we didn't match their intensity or whatever. But I was like, no, if they're gonna scream and yell and bang stuff, like we should make some noise as well, in my opinion. But that wasn't his style. He was just kind of like a laid back.
Yeah.
Your actions will speak louder than your words type, which, you know, I get it.
We got we were getting beaten a halftime of a playoff game one time, and we were a little flat. And our head coach, I'll never forget this. So I got more spirit in my pinky. He's just like, I got more school spirit in my pinky. He's just like shoving his pinky in everybody's face. He's like, I love this school more in my pinky than you guys do. All right, coach.
I might have told this one on the podcast before, but maybe we have new listeners from the Dave Campbell's Republic of Football feed. I was just like suiting up on varsity. I didn't play. And we were playing a team that wasn't any good, but we didn't come out strong either. And so we were like tied with them at halftime, or maybe even losing to a team that we shouldn't have been losing to. And our coach, we were separated offense and defense in the locker room, and coach comes in the offensive locker room, and I was trying so hard not to laugh because I knew if I did, like I was going to have to run gassers or do bear crawls or whatever. But he comes in, he's all pissed off at us. He goes, they are dog shit on defense. And he takes this real long, dramatic pause. And he goes, and y'all are just sniffing it. And I was like sitting over there. I was like, don't laugh at that. Don't laugh at that. I wanted to. And he like leaves. And then I was like, then, you know, a few seconds have passed and it wasn't as funny anymore. I was like, man, like that's got to be a tough spot if you're a high school coach. You're dealing with like a bunch of 16 and 17-year-old boys who like, they might think it's funny even if you cuss them out and say something like that to them, but they're dog shit on defense and y'all are just sniffing it.
I'm going to use that. That is a good line.
It's funny.
That's a funny line. All right. That about does it for us. We'll be live on Saturday night on Twitter, and then live again on Sunday night, recapping week 1, previewing the lines for week 2. Might get off a little late on Sunday, but we'll get off on Sunday nonetheless.
Yeah, appreciate everybody for tuning in. If you've hung out with us all off season, now we get to the fun part. So thank you for listening, for following along on social media. And if you're going to Laramie, safe travels. We'll see you up there. I'm sure sounds like maybe it's not a huge town, so maybe we'll run into each other at a restaurant or a bar before the game. Keep us posted if you're throwing some kind of party or something. Message us on Twitter. We'd love to meet some of you, hang out with some of you up in Laramie, and should be a good time. So hope everybody travels safe and hope we win by more than 14.
Amen.
Love y'all.